Salut les enfants, salut fort, c'est Madame Dale. Alors aujourd'hui un peu de culture. Okay, so learning a language is not just learning about the language itself, the words, but also learning about the culture. Now, culture, what is culture? Culture is understanding how people live their lives in France. What time do they eat? What sort of food do they usually eat? Etc. etc. So today we are going to have a look at different types of food eaten in France, but also you will describe each piece of food, including the French name, by doing a little activity for me. I will explain later. Okay, so apparently the French love their food. It's a certain reputation, but they produce food for countries all over the world. Some of the world's best chefs come from France. Now, for example, this chef here is called Michel Roux and is a world famous French chef. Now, breakfast. Le petit déjeuner. Lots of French people eat bread and drink coffee or hot chocolate for breakfast. Now, can you think of different types of French bread or pastries? Now, let's have a look. We have on top there a bread that you call ficelle or baguette. A baguette is a French stick. Okay, ficelle is usually the same, but a little bit slimmer. Okay, but you also have pastries like croissant, pain au chocolat, pain au raisin, which is the shape of a snail, and in the middle you have a bit of sort of a custard with raisins in it. Okay, so lots of different choices. Have a think. Have you ever tried any of them? Have a little discussion together and share it with the class. Okay, supper. Okay, le déjeuner. A French family, we eat supper together. Okay, now supper is a most important meal of the day for French people. That's why it lasts roughly 2 hours, believe it or not. So in schools, for example, children will finish school about 11:30, okay, and it will be back to class at 1:30. So 2 hour break. Some children tend to go back home to have the supper as a family with the rest, okay, or sometimes they stay in school, but they would stay at what you call the canteen, la cantine, okay, and it would be like a small restaurant in a way, okay. So you would have 4 different dishes, okay. So the first one usually is a starter, okay, quite often a soup or a crudité, which is a mixture of salad, carrots, beetroot, celeriac, etc., etc. Okay, then will come the main dish, which is meat or fish with vegetables. Okay, then on number 3, you would have cheeses. So you always have a selection of different cheeses. Okay, like brie, Gruyere, le bleu, etc. And finally will come le dessert. Now, le dessert can be a bit of ice cream, fruit salad, or a yogurt. Okay, so you can see having 4 different dishes, you can understand why the meal lasts so long. Okay, let's just talk about cheese, le fromage. France is a world famous for its variety of cheese. Traditionally, there are between 350 and 400 different cheeses in France. Some believe there are up to 200. More than that, cheese is eaten in a majority of French families, so cheese is always included in a meal. Okay, it's from French baguette usually. Now, Gruyere cheese, okay, is a cheese with a yellow cheese with holes in it, and this is the equivalent of the cheddar. Now, French people cook with it. Now, in England, if you make a pizza, for example, you tend to use some cheddar on the top, grated cheddar. Okay, French people would put grated Gruyere on it. In England, if you make a pasta bake and you want some cheese on the top, you tend to use some cheddar. Now, French people would use Gruyere instead. A little bit different. Okay, wine, le vin. The French are also famous for making wine. Grapes are grown in numerous vineyards throughout France. Wine is often drunk during meal times. Now, most French people do have a bit of wine during their meals. It's to complement the meal. Okay, for example, you would more have white wine if you're having fish, for example. Okay, you would have wine, a red wine with cheese, for example. Okay, so just a little bit to savor your meal. Okay, to enjoy your meal. Now, the town of Champagne, okay, is world famous for making the sparkling alcoholic drink, champagne. Usually, French people keep the champagne for a special occasion. We do the same in England too. When there is a special birthday or a new arrival in the family or any good celebration. French delicacies. Now, the French love snails and frogs' legs. However, people tend to think that French people eat snails and frogs' legs all the time. No, in fact, it's something quite luxurious. People tend to enjoy them and share them with family when it is a special occasion, even like Christmas or Easter or a special birthday, things like that. So it's not a daily food. The snails are especially farmed and often eaten with a garlic butter. So the taste is a little bit like the garlic bread that we have. Frogs are also especially farmed and often deep fried and eaten with a dip. I've never had any, believe it or not, but apparently it tastes a little bit like chicken. Now, what about you? Have you any of you tried snails or frogs' legs? Have a little discussion within the class and share your opinion. Okay, here's a task for you. Okay, so now that you've learned a little bit about French food and how they eat in France, what we'd like you to do is to use an iPad to discover some traditional French meals. So in your book, what we'd like you to do is draw a picture of a traditional French meal of your choice. Then describe it in English. Now, when you describe it in English, you can talk about in which region is it coming from? When do French people eat it? Is it something that you have for a special occasion again? Or is it something that French people may enjoy on a weekly basis? You choose. Okay, so it can be a meal, but it can be also dessert. So I can think of tarte tatin, for example. So have a look, just do some research, and I would love to see your work. Bonne chance les enfants. À bientôt.